All right, good deal. Well, it is a blessing to be here tonight on the Delivered Orthodoxy podcast, our summer live stream series. And we have had a lot of things going on this summer already.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting Vacation Bible School here at Emmanuel tomorrow morning. This place will be invaded by small children tomorrow. Right. We're going to be having a great time. We're looking forward to that. And certainly if you're watching this live stream, I have to imagine that you're at least a little bit interested in the things of the Lord. And so we would appreciate if you pray for us tomorrow as we begin Vacation Bible School. We're just going to have a great time. So we're looking forward to that. Of course, today is Father's Day. And Brother Shad, I've got on my Father's Day shirt right here. So
that's awesome.
I heard yours was on backwards.
I don't have on my Father's Day shirt. Yeah, I didn't get one.
I'm not trying to rub salt balloons or anything like that. But,
good thing we're talking about marriage. Huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So just know it will get there eventually.
Right. Maybe.
And I mean, so till death do you part. So
right.
Hopefully before then you'll get your shirt.
Right.
All right. That's it. That's it. But of course tonight, this is the second in a series on marriage that we're doing. Here a couple of weeks ago, we had an interview with Kyle and Penny Warner. They have been through just so many trials, quite outside their control, not brought on by themselves or their own actions, but trials that were that tested their commitment to the Lord and also their commitment to one another. And so it was a blessing for them to be able to come and share their testimony with us. Mm-hmm. And this past week, Kyle had, we talked about on the live stream that he was having a tumor removed from his neck, a benign tumor. And he had that done this last week. And we are happy to say that there's answered prayers. Amen. He's home. He's doing well. And so we thank God for that. So thank you, those of you that prayed for him, certainly. But tonight, we do have some special guests with us tonight.
Super excited about tonight.
Special guests tonight, James and Janice Sawyer. They are longtime members here at Emmanuel Baptist Church, and just a precious, precious couple. Yep. And the reason, of course, that there are many couples in our church who have been married for a long period of time and have seen the ups and downs of life, who love the Lord. But you two may be, as far as I know, I think you may be the
longest tenure.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, most experienced couple in the area of marriage. All right, this covenant that we enter into, and so we just want to praise the Lord with the two of you tonight, and we want to hear your story. Okay, but before we get into that, I want to share some scripture tonight. It's a good place to start. Proverbs 18:22. I quote that almost every time I do a wedding, that says the man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and is blessed by the Lord. I know that's your testimony, Mr. James. At least it better be, because you're real close to her. All right, she can get you. But Matthew chapter 19, Jesus is asked by his disciples. He's asked about divorce, but his reply really isn't about divorce. It's about marriage and God's intention for marriage, and what we should strive for as those who follow Jesus. What we should strive to put on display in our marriage. And in Matthew chapter 19, beginning in verse 4, it says, "Haven't you read," he replied, "that he who created them in the beginning made them male and female? And he also said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." And then Matthew 19:6. Now, that's an important verse for a lot of reasons. Those of you looking for one of those mugs, y'all better remember that. But we'll leave that alone. All right, it's most important because Jesus said it and because it applies to us. Because here he says in verse 6, "So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate." Okay.
Amen.
And the two of you are an embodiment of that truth and the blessing of that covenant. And so tonight, as we get started, I know I'm a little long-winded in our intro, but one reason is kind of let people get online where they can see this. All right. So I'm sure that they're all joining us now. Okay. So we want to hear from the two of you. I want you to tell us just a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, your family, that sort of thing. And so whoever wants to start us off.
I'll let you go. You go first.
All right, Miss Janice.
Okay. I grew up on a cotton patch in Pioneer, Louisiana.
Yes, Pioneer.
Yes. Yes, it's West Carroll Parish. And I had one sister, my mother and daddy. Like I say, they got married late in life.
And tell them how old your father was and your mother was.
He was 37 and mother was 29 when they got married.
Well, that was an old maid back then.
I know it was.
Big time.
Yeah, but you know, that's a long marriage they had too. I tell you, they taught us how they were. We didn't miss church.
Yes, ma'am.
Anytime at all.
Yeah.
And
now your daddy was a singer, wasn't he?
Yes, he was a song leader at church.
Yeah.
And I think I told you before, he tried to teach me how to sing.
Yes, ma'am.
Read music, sing. And I would mess up so bad. He would lay down at the floor and laugh at me.
Oh my goodness.
He was sort of a comedian anyway.
Yeah.
And but we lived at Pioneer. We had an 80-acre farm, and he grew cotton and corn and peas and everything, and sweet potatoes.
Yes, ma'am. But y'all made your living right there on that farm.
We made our living on that farm. And I probably was about 5 when I started helping him out,
Yes, ma'am.
And then my sister's 3 years younger than I am. Her name is Montias. A lot of people here at church know her.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
But she was a professor at LSU in Eunice for about 27 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And and then I graduated at Pioneer High School and then moved to Monroe and went to business college in Monroe. And that's kind of where I met James.
Oh, well, hold on. We're going to get to that in this romance here in a minute. All right. So, Mr. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood, your growing up?
Okay, I was born up here at Farmville, out from Farmville, Salem. And we moved from there when I believe I was 5 years old, and moved to West Monroe out on Whites Ferry Road. And I was raised up there till I was about 16, 15. And then I left home. My mother and daddy were separated, divorced.
And that was a rare thing back then.
It was. Yeah. And I kind of lived between the two of them. He was gone most of the time. But and then I come back after I had a little stint in service.
Now hold on, wait a minute. You got to give some details.
He wants you to tell that story.
There's a story here that we want to hear. So tell us about your service.
Okay, when I was 15, a buddy of mine, he was wanting to go in the Marine Corps. They was having this Louisiana Purchase platoon. I believe it was 150 years. And so I said, yeah, I'll go with you. But I couldn't go because I wasn't 15. So we devised a plan with the recruiting sergeant that I would take a birth certificate and put white out on the date and change the date and where I'd be 18. And then I told my mother that Daddy signed for me to go in. I told my daddy that my mother signed.
Oh, it's confession time.
But anyway, we went to the Marine Corps and I stayed there about a year. And they put me on guard duty at a radar station. And they run a security check because you had to have a top secret security. And they found out I wasn't quite old enough. So they discharged me and I came back to Monroe and went back to school for a while. But then when I was 18, I went to work. Well, no, I was 17.
Yeah.
I went to work for W.S. Young, which ended up being Highlines Construction. and I was in the line business 50-something years. But not long after that's when I met Janet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you had another stint with Uncle Sam.
Oh yeah, I was drafted later on. I was
after
drafted.
we got married, he was
drafted.
Yeah, that was after we were
married. Okay. Well, I guess I'm getting the card ahead of the whole.
Well, that's all right. But anyway, I met Janice. I was probably 19 at the time when I first met her.
Yeah,
and she used to come down when she was going to business school. She would come down to Walgreens Pharmacy below there, and they had a coffee shop there.
Yes.
Right? And so we got to know each other there. And one thing led to another.
You got to laugh at me there a lot.
Yeah.
I ran into her.
We flustered her one day, and she ran into a display. Everything went scattered.
Oh my goodness!
But, some good memory.
Absolutely. So how long did now? I know you said your mom and daddy courted for 8 years before they got married. Now, how long did the two of you court before you?
Well, let's see. I guess I was already 21, and it was on in October,
Halloween
night, and he had some friends that said, well, let's ride around and see all the Halloween things going on, and he had a date with him, and so James,
I thought you said James had a date with him.
No. No.
Clear that up.
He had a date, but he told James, let's go down and pick up Janice. And James said, she won't go out with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have anything to do that night.
Oh,
man.
So I did and everything. And we did. We kind of felt love,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I liked him a lot, and he knew, so he wanted to know if he could come pick me up the next morning and take me to work.
There you go.
And so I had a ride to work for a few minutes.
Well, that's good.
But we dated for about a month, and then the hurricane hit down.
No, it wasn't a hurricane. I just had to go south.
Oh, well, I thought it was a hurricane.
No.
Okay, but anyway, he went to Covington and worked.
Had to go work.
Yeah, that was in November, late November. He went there, and then he came home New Year's Day the next year, and he checked, see what I'd been doing and everything. Somebody told him I'd been dating.
Oh, whoa.
And so he came, we talked it over, and he asked me to go steady. So after that, we got married May the 23rd that same year. So we knew each other and dated for 7 months. So
a long line of just not having anything better to do.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. Well, it looks like it's worked out.
Right.
I think it has. Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, I know certainly y'all had a lot of ups and downs. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But how long have you been, when did you move? How'd you get back here to Ruston? And how long have you been here at Emmanuel? Now, you were in the service for a little while.
Yeah.
Did Janice go with you when you were in the service?
Yeah, she moved up after I got stationed at Fort Sill. She did come to Oklahoma. And we had our first baby up there, little girl.
Yeah.
But that's while I was in the Army.
While you were in the Army. And then y'all moved back to Ruston.
We moved back to Ruston.
Because James was working in Ruston.
Okay.
So.
And I went back to work with W.S. Young. Construction.
Got back on the high line. So.
Yeah.
So then how'd y'all get to Emmanuel?
After we moved back to Ruston, we were going to Methodist church. I was raised a Methodist. And when I accepted Christ, I was sprinkled instead of immersed.
Yes, ma'am.
We went to Methodist church. And I was afraid of the water anyway.
Right.
But no, then before Shelley, we lost Shelley. Before that, we started visiting Emmanuel because, he wanted to go to a church
little different, little bit more Baptist, yeah.
And so we did. We came, and we've been going to Emmanuel several months when Shelley got sick,
Well, and that kind of leads us into our next question. I told you I was going to talk with you a little bit about this, because certainly I know there's been, all of us go through trials and tribulations, but certainly there's one that stands out, when you lose a child.
Yes.
And so would you tell a little bit, this was your firstborn, this was Shelley.
Shelley.
And would you tell us a little bit about what happened there?
Well, she was 18 months old. And I had taken her on Wednesday, I'd taken her into Green Clinic for a wellness check. And she was fine. And then that Friday night, she woke up with a high fever and everything. So I don't know whether she contacted something there or what. But anyway, we took her in on Thursday morning. We took her to the clinic, and the doctor, after examining us, he told us, he said, James, you get Shelley and get in my car with me, and Janice, can you drive y'all's car and follow us? And I said, yeah, but I didn't know, anything that would help my baby. But anyway, he said she had pneumonia. They put her in oxygen tent and everything. And so Friday, she was in the oxygen tent, and she got sicker. So the doctor came and everything, and we was outside in the hall waiting for him. And I asked James, I said, would you pray with me? And I got down on my knees in the hall, I was praying. I didn't know anything to do except ask God to help. So
yes, ma'am.
James, he confessed. He said, he says, I didn't really realize that I didn't know God then, that I never asked him into my heart. And, but anyway, and I don't know, for some reason, I didn't think, that anybody that went to church and everything with us, like he did with me, I didn't think about him not knowing. I just thought,
you just made an assumption that he had made some sort of
because
decision.
He was good, and he was
a good guy.
We went to church together and everything. So, but anyway, that was in fall. After we lost her in December, and that was in the spring when we went. And in 1964 is when he made a profession of faith, and then I had been sprinkled, so I was baptized.
You were baptized.
I was baptized, well. Yes.
Yeah.
So April of 1964.
Okay. And so lost her in December. Then y'all joined the church, and y'all had been attending for a little while.
Oh yeah, we had already. Yeah, okay. She was staying in the nursery, and everybody loved her.
Oh yeah, I know, and it just broke everything. I mean, that's just such a horrific.
Brother Johnson was the pastor,
yes,
the leader. The one that built the church.
Yeah, the founding pastor. He was here for a long time. But when you go through something like that, and I mean, for you, Brother James, had you been thinking about your relationship, or lack thereof, or did it really hit you?
I never gave it a thought.
You never even thought about whether you were saved.
That I wasn't thinking about spiritual.
Yeah.
My relationship until that night, and she asked me to pray, and I said,
I think God just.
And I realized that I'm gonna bust hell wide open and I'll never see her again.
Yeah. That conviction came on you.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Well, praise the Lord.
God used that, I guess, to really convict me to where, so I was kind of hard-hearted before that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about spiritual things.
Yeah.
Well, and God, and I think that's something for us we look back on that, and it's real easy for us to, if we're not thinking biblically, it's real easy to say, well, it happened because of this, or it happened because of that. But those things aren't consistent with who God is, and we live in a fallen world.
That's right.
But God uses these things.
Right.
Providentially, he uses these trials of life to change us and to bring us to himself. Go ahead.
I even, like, as you're saying that, Brother James, I think about the verse that talks about we have this treasure in jars of clay, and these light momentary afflictions. And that's not a light affliction, but like that loss was not pointless. Like God used that loss to bring you to Christ. And I think, man, people listening, people that will listen, like there's a point to all of this.
Yes.
God's working together a bigger story than we can ever think about, and I don't know what I would do if my wife called me and told me that we had lost a kid, but to hear you say that God had a purpose for it, that's a big deal.
It
and
is.
And the fact that it didn't make you bitter.
Right.
And as we turn to each other,
Right.
we helped on to each other, but it brought us closer together than we ever had been,
Well, and that's I'm sorry. Go.
No.
I was just saying that's the next question. Is how did you get through it? And I mean, you don't ever. There's some things that happen to us in our lives that we don't get over.
Yeah.
You don't get over.
No.
But
you don't ever forget this.
Oh,
either. No. I mean, right now it's, the Christmas every year. She died December the 21st, 4 days before Christmas. And that's just something that you live with, but you don't ever get over it. You just remember them,
Yeah.
And she was our Titus now is
that's your
great
grandson.
Great grandson.
Yeah.
He reminds me of her because she was an explorer. She liked to explore things, and she learned she turned the key in the door to and this, that, and the other, And one day I was down in my hip for some reason. I hadn't been able to walk good for 2 or 3 days. And I sort of was limping through the house, All of a sudden I looked back and here she was following me, but she was limping just like I was. So we have a lot of good memories,
That's right.
to think.
That's right.
That same year that we lost her, that crew that I was working in, we had 2 more tragic accidents and they lost children. One got ran over up here at Vienna, and then another boy's baby drowned down out from shooters down here. That's
in the same
within
crew.
about a month and a half.
Oh, goodness.
Good.
Man.
Yes. Wow. Well, as you look back on that time, in your lives, and obviously, Brother James, you were just coming to the Lord. I mean, you were just getting to the place of brokenness and turning from sin and turning to Christ and being saved. But when you look back on that, I mean, that's a life-changing experience. But as you look back, what were the things that the two of you did that helped you persevere and kept you from falling into the pit of depression? Of hopelessness. You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
And it's easy for it to happen. But what kept you from going into that hopelessness and that depression?
I believe it was being in church and having all the church members around, and I could tell they really put their hands on us and loved us. And I knew that I loved all of them. See, I was raised only child, and to have brothers and sisters.
That's right.
That it just was all like family in that. And Janice and I got closer there than we'd ever been. Not to say that we wasn't already close, but
we just depended on each other for every breath, just about it, Yeah.
Well, I know that these are certainly things that are difficult memories even to look back on, and think on. But God wasn't done, with your little family. Now, how long was it before your son came along?
6 years.
Whoa, really? I didn't know that was that much time.
It was 4 years before we had him. But,
yes, ma'am.
But they were 6 years apart. Yeah.
Wow.
And, we thought we never could have another one, and we prayed about it a lot and everything, but we finally found this doctor that helped us get worked out to where I got, and it was after we were drafted into the Army, and we got down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma before I got pregnant, so
that was the first time.
That was, yeah. That was the first time.
Yeah. But the second time.
But the second time is, the doctor put us on some medication to take, and then after that we got pregnant with Jimmy, and he was 8 pounds 15 ounces.
So he was healthy as a horse. There wasn't any issues there. Huh?
And I was just a little skinny girl then. I lost a pound after he was born.
Is that right?
Yeah, after he was born, I was a pound less than I was when I got.
You're kidding me.
My doctor wouldn't let me gain any weight. I gained 13 pounds my whole pregnancy, and he weighed 8 pounds 15 ounces.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, I know. That just certainly that period of time in between there, I know had to have been just difficult.
It was.
For the two of you. But of course, when Jimmy came into your home, I know that was just renewed life and excitement there, and so. But as we think about from then, we've got a lot of things that have happened in your life, But how have you seen the Lord work in your lives and in your marriage through all the ups and downs that you've gone through?
Oh yeah, it's just if we didn't have God to depend on, to talk to, and to feel His fellowship, with us and everything, it would have been bad. But He's loved us and we've loved Him, and just.
James, any
I thought he was going to sleep.
No. I was
Are there any specific things that you can look back on that you've seen the Lord do in y'all's lives, change in y'all's lives over the course of y'all's marriage?
Oh, I'm sure it's been lots of things, but when we had Jimmy was one great thing that we had, and after we had lost Shelley, that put a burden more on me, I think, than James, because it scared me so bad every time he would get a cold or anything, and I'd have to ask God to help. And then I had this great friend that I'd call at 2:00 in the morning, Ann Cupid.
Yes, ma'am. I got to know Miss Ann.
Ann and I grew up together at Pioneer, and then
she lived right here.
Yeah, we both
Emmanuel.
ended up at Emmanuel and everything. She was the best. We were just like sisters all our lives, and everything. So, but she helped me raise Jimmy to an age where I got to where I didn't tremble and shake every time he had a nose run.
Yes, ma'am.
But we just depended on God for everything at the time, Yeah. But I don't know what I would have ever done without him.
That's right. That's right. Well, now.
And then, go ahead.
No, don't let me stop you. No, you keep going. Don't keep going. They don't want to listen to me. I promise you. But Mr. James, you went from getting saved, all right, at just a terrible, moment as far as just from a worldly perspective in your life. But that's when you were born again. You came to the Lord, and so you didn't really have background in church or in the Bible or any of those things. But here we are, these 60-something years later, you're a deacon emeritus here. I mean, at the church. And so, could you tell us a little bit about how you began to grow in the faith and growing your relationship with the Lord, coming to the Lord at that time, and what that meant to you?
Well, I involved myself more in church. I would come all the time, and I read my Bible and studied, and we started tithing. And that's something that I firmly believe in is tithing. And seemed like we'd get a little short on money, and God always provided something for us.
Yes, sir.
I'd work a little overtime or something like that, but we never went lacking. Yes. And over the period of years, I got close relations with different church members, and just that. I mean, I really.
Well, I think that's the beauty. We talk about the ordinary. We call them the ordinary means of grace. In other words, the things that God's told us in His Word that we ought to do, like feed on His Word, like be around His people, pray. Those things, and you have you've seen that at work in your life over the years, and to give and join together for worship with others, and you've seen the way that has grown you as a child of God, as a man of God, and we're sitting here 60-something years after your conversion, and we're just looking back on God's faithfulness, and what a blessing that is.
Yeah,
what a blessing it is. Yeah. Well, over the course of your marriage, I know you've been involved here at Emmanuel all these years. Why don't you? And I already mentioned Brother James, being a deacon, that sort of thing. But how have you? We think about the importance of your church life, your church family. How have you served the Lord through Emmanuel Baptist Church over the years?
Me or him?
Well, we'll start with Mr. James this time. We'll come to you.
Well, we started a few years after we joined. They had started bus ministry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I could drive. I was a driver.
So I guess you had drove those big trucks and everything.
Yeah, I'd always drove. So we had an old blue bus. I drove it, and then we'd have workers. Every Saturday they go visit. And then on Sunday, I'd go by and pick them up.
Yes, sir. So they would find out on Saturday where they could come, or the kids would come.
Right.
And we'd get a bus load. And I did that. And I helped Janice teach 5-year-olds in Sunday school.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was a kick.
I bet.
Those little kids were something else.
Now, how old were you when you became a deacon?
Gosh, I don't know. I was 50.
Yeah, imagine.
I expect I was around 50.
So probably by the time Jimmy got out of high school, he was about grown before you became a deacon. Then.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So, I had. For years, I wouldn't let them put my name on that, And then God told me, said, if they want you, they'll vote you in. If they don't want you, well, you don't have to worry about
it. There you go. That's right.
And I told, I forget who it was. It might have been Brother Bill Griffin.
Yes.
He asked me about that, and I said, yeah, go ahead and put my name on it. And I figured, no, I'd never hear it. That'd be the end of it. But God had plans.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That's good. What about you, Miss Janice? I know there's some things that you were just passionate about.
Right, it is. Well, of course, like I say, when James, we taught Sunday school, 5-year-olds in Sunday school for several years. Kim Ballard's twins.
Yeah.
The first time when they came in, when we changed classes, they went home, or they told their mother when they got out of church, they said, Mother, we like our Sunday school teacher. She's a granny. I was only about 30.
You weren't that old.
Or 40, maybe.
Well, you
you
didn't quite feel like a granny.
No.
That's right.
And but anyway, we had so much fun, and it was such a blessing to teach children. And so Brother Ben Watson was here, and they came up with something about Bible drill.
Yes,
sent out some stuff to the church, and he called me in. He said, "Janice, I want you to do this." And I said, Brother Ben, I don't know how to teach kids to do Bible drill. Yeah. I said, we had something called that when I went to church, and because I remember a verse, but I don't remember it right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know what it is, but it wasn't Jesus wept.
No, man, that's right. It was
longer than that, yeah. But anyway, so Jimmy was 9 years old when I started teaching Bible drill. Wow. It's 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, and I taught for 37 years.
Yes,
every year, and we had the blessing. After we got through, and if they won, we went to state, and they won at state, and everything. Well, I would take them on a bowling trip.
Is that right?
I would take them to the bowling alley to bowl and things like that. But all the kids liked it. I remember Lyra Lee's son. He became in the ministry.
He sure did.
And he said that started.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's associate pastor down at Kingsville Baptist Church now. Sure is.
So that and when I had to retire, I thought, I just wasn't able to do it anymore. And I was beginning to get a little older then. Yeah. So after 37 years. But anyway, I tried my best to find somebody.
To pass it on. Yeah.
I found somebody to teach one year, and I ended up having to go help them, and everything. But I just couldn't find anybody, and that almost broke my heart because
well, it's a time and a season, but those seeds that you planted, those memory verses, those kids learn, it's still bearing fruit, in their lives, and you have to believe that. I know you do, and you still see it. You still see God at work.
Well, and my grandchildren came along, and I had both of them in Bible drill. I took them through Bible drill, and
I think they've been commenting about that too, as well.
They sure have.
They've been talking about they can still go to the verses and things of that nature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The kids. Yeah. A lot of. Yeah. We have to memorize both books of the Bible, and say them in 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Goodness gracious,
that's quick. That's quick. I'm sure.
We'll say the Bible verse in 10 seconds.
Oh, okay. They tell you the Bible verse.
Yeah. No, they didn't memorize. They couldn't say the whole verses in 10 seconds, but they could say the Bible verse in 10 seconds.
Well, that time was well spent, and investing in young people and investing putting God's word in their hearts.
Yes, it was.
Brother Paul, I want to ask this next question.
All right, go ahead.
So my wife needs some
now.
advice.
All right.
On being a wife.
Watch out now. Yeah. You better be glad you got 3 kids at home. You probably didn't have time to watch this.
So what advice would you guys give to a young couple that's just starting out?
Well, we have given advice for a little bit, but most of the thing we say, well, first of all, put yourself in God's hands, and never go to bed mad at each other. We had an older man tell us that one time, right after we got married. So, if you have a fuss, do not go to bed with that on your mind.
Would a quick "I'm sorry" work right before falling asleep?
Well, yes, if you really mean it,
Oh, okay. Okay.
And if you go to sleep mad, you're gonna wake up.
Right.
That's right.
Right. I've woken up mad a few times.
That's one thing James and I have never really had things where we get mad at each other,
And stay mad.
No. Well, we've always just turned each other, with everything. So.
My wife said she was watching, so that's good.
Oh,
you just need really good advice.
Good.
I started to ask you what's her name.
Her name's Whitney.
Whitney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Whitney. Just love him. Turn him to God.
No matter what. That's right.
There you go. Well, what about you, Mr. James? You worked. Your job was pretty demanding at times. You didn't you weren't at home every night. You were on the road a lot. Working with a Highline company and those kind of things. We've got a couple guys here in the church work on Highlines and do those things. And I know it's not just dangerous work, but it's very taxing. A lot of times, a lot of long hours, those kind of things. And so for you as a young, if you were talking to a young man that's just trying to, he's trying all the pressures of taking care of a family and all those things, what encouragement would you give him in terms of how to build his marriage the right way?
Well, the first thing, if he don't know the Lord, he needs
that's right,
to be saved.
Yep. Amen.
And then he needs every day. If a lineman is in a dangerous business, and he needs to keep his mind on his work and not on other problems. Because if he don't, he's going to end up getting burnt. And
he's been through
and
several.
His wife, if he's married, his wife needs to do like Janice did. Every morning when I left for work, she tell me, "I love you, and be careful."
Yeah.
I mean, that's every morning.
Yeah.
And
so you had peace with God, but you was also at peace there was peace in your home too.
Yeah, it was. We didn't. Me and Janice didn't argue and fuss. In the first place, she won't fuss. I mean, I might would have fussed with her, but I'm not going to stand there and fuss at the wall.
That's right. She just wasn't going to do it.
I learned pretty quick that didn't work.
That's great. Well,
I feel that in my soul. My wife won't fuss and argue either. And sometimes I'll just try to make her.
Yeah.
And she will not. She doesn't give in to me.
Well, my daughter's over here running the live
stream. You're listening.
So I'm not going to start talking about my wife because she will make sure there has been some fussing at my house. I can promise you that. But I understand what you're saying though, Mr. James, because if you got peace with the Lord, and you're going in, and then you're going to work, and it's a dangerous job, but it was your job, and you were a professional in that field, and you knew what to do and those things. But you didn't need to have the stress of worrying about what was going to happen when you got home, or you didn't need the stress of, trying to figure out how to make things right that you had messed up, because you were walking at peace with the Lord. And you're at peace with your wife. What a blessing to be able to, and to go out when you had to go out on the road, you knew you could trust her.
Right.
And she knew she could trust you.
That's right.
Well, and I can't imagine somebody, not I wouldn't have been able to live if we fussed at each other.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably what we see so many marriages that end in divorce.
All right.
And if y'all's foundation was right, or God got it right early on in your marriage, and thank God for that. And here we are 67 years later. We can look back and thank God for his goodness.
And one thing is, don't overburden yourself with debt.
Yeah.
That has broke up a lot of marriages.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Now, and that goes right into this last question. Okay, because certainly debt, we talk about the reasons why couples struggle. Finances is way up on that list. Okay, we know that. But what advice would you give to a couple that's been through some trials and is thinking about giving up? What would you tell
them? I'd tell them, first place, they need to get help. To some kind of counseling or something. And they need to pray about it. If they earnestly pray about it with each other, God will answer that prayer. He's not going to let them sit there and pray and not answer if they really mean it. Yeah. And it's just, it's not 50-50. That's right. Married life is not 50-50. If you don't give more than 50%
right
of being married, it's not going to work.
Right. It's 100 plus 100, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Miss Janice? What would you say to a couple? They come to you and they say, well, we're just struggling.
I tell you, that's something hard to do. And like I say, I just tell them how we felt, how we believe in the Lord, and we take things, to God and everything. And we just, fussing is so, I don't really understand it too much, and I didn't grow up in a home that Mother and Daddy fussed. No, not at all. And so I don't know. My daddy was so, he was more on the comedian side, but he loved to sing though. You mentioned that a while ago, but we just, we were just happy. We had each other, and and I had my sister, she was 3 years younger than me, and she has been a lifesaver to us at times, and everything, because thank goodness she and her husband both are very good Christians, and they do a lot. Leon is he's been deacon for years. He's treasurer of the church. And he's a Gideon. He's been a Gideon for years and years and years.
Share the gospel, share the Bible.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well.
And he's not doing so. Yeah. And he's asked
folks to pray for him. For Leon.
Leon Estes.
All right. Sure will. Well, as we close out tonight, do we have any questions, Lydia? Did we have any questions or just comment?
Yeah. A question I heard.
Okay, you think we already? Let's see. Yeah. All right, Adam had a question. Yeah, he would say, how would you counsel someone who wants to leave the Christian faith after facing the adversity of losing a child? I think y'all spoke to that. That was where you turned, and you encourage him to stay faithful. So I think we've already, thank you, Adam, for that question, but I think y'all addressed that. You probably got that in before y'all went through that. Well, as we kind of close up, tonight, finish up, Lydia's getting our little drawing ready. All right. She's getting ready for that. We'll give away one of these mugs here in a minute. But as we're closing, 67 years is a long time. And I visited with the two of you enough to know, and that, if I didn't think two of you liked each other still, I wouldn't have had you on here to talk. I'm going to let you know, I don't care how many years. But just as simply as you can, the difference in the love and appreciation you have for one another, let's say from year 5 or year 7 to 67. When you were married 7 years, and most marriages, if they're going to end, they end within the first 5 years, the first 10 years.
Right.
Okay. And so if you were to try to think back to the way the depth of the love you had for one another when you had been married 7 years versus the way you love each other now at 67 years, what would the difference be?
Golly, well, we're both one now.
Yes, sir.
She don't think something that I can't think, and I don't, and she reads my mind. Just you know what I mean? It's, and the first 4 or 5 years, it's a lot of physical love, and then as you get older, it's more love, a soul type love.
Yes, sir.
That you really, I don't know whether I answered that right or not.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Brother James, because I think in our, we look at marriage and we become one flesh in marriage.
Right.
And it's a picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a picture there of the oneness that is experienced in the Godhead, Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Right.
But now our picture, it falls way short of the oneness that they enjoy. And then we enter into union with Christ. And we're one with Christ. And when we get saved, that day you got saved on the floor of that hospital or whenever it was right after that, you were just as one with Christ then as you are right this minute. You were as saved as you'll ever be right then. But the oneness your relationship with Jesus Christ is so much deeper now than it was then.
Oh, yeah.
And in the same, when the two of you said, I do, all right, 67 years ago, you were just as married then as you are right now.
That's right.
But like you said, you enjoy the fruit of that oneness now.
Yeah.
In the way God has knit the two of you together. And I just thank y'all for coming on here and sharing
so much
with us tonight.
I enjoyed it.
It's just a blessing. I know it wasn't easy for you, Miss Janice, getting here. We tried to get you a good chair.
Oh, you did.
And we made that fella. That was a young guy we had with us last week. We made him sit in one of these old hard chairs.
No.
We did our best, get you some good chairs here. But we love y'all. We appreciate you so much.
Oh, we do too. We love you.
So Lydia's going to get our drawing here ready. And I'm going to let you, since you are our special guest. All right, I'm going to let you draw a name out of the box here. All right, let's see who we've got. All right, we have got,
Joyce Huntington.
Miss Joyce.
Miss Joyce.
Oh, yeah.
I can bring that home with me.
Yeah,
I love her.
Right.
Brother Shane, so that won't be hard.
Congratulations, Miss Joyce.
Congratulations,
Yeah, I
Miss
love
Joyce.
her.
It's a hot commodity here.
Right.
And so thank you, Lydia, for that. And we're going to close out now. Thank you so much for being here with us.
We
and next week.
And we love you.
Well, we love you too. I appreciate that. I didn't pay him extra for
Thank
that.
you so much.
Give him a mug. That's all. All right. That's all. But certainly next week we're going to have a couple here with us. It's only been married just a couple of years.
Yeah, the other end of the spectrum.
On the other end of the spectrum. We're going to talk to them about challenges. I'm going to encourage them to watch this. All right. It'd be a great encouragement to them. But we're going to be talking with them. Brady and Ashlyn Eason are going to be here with us next week. And so anyway, we're looking forward to that. But thank you so much for being with us tonight. Yeah. And thank all of you who've been watching. God bless.
I really enjoyed
it. Congratulations on you having a new graduate for a dog.
That's right. That's right. We got another one out of school. One to go. One to go. That's it. God bless y'all.
Y'all.